So do this, when you come up with your idea, put it in the discussion post for this week. And so that we don't overlap on ideas. I don't want people doing the same company type, same company or same product or same service. So we know not to try to overlap with the same, ideas or product or service, right? So put that in, yes,
There's no discussion this week.
there's no discussion, there's nothing to post in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll create one. Alright, so I'll create a discussion for this week and it'll be just only for sharing your ideas for your project and coming up with your, plan. From there, how this will work, I'm gonna give each person a couple minutes to express their ideas with the class, right? Kind of hint how you come up with it, why you're interested in this, and what do you hope to seek and observe about this. I want the class to be interactive, we can share ideas. And we'll typically do that with each part of the assignment with the project, right? So even at the end, we're looking at risk analysis, we're gonna keep it short and sweet, not gonna drag things out, just gets the gist of what we found out, right? Kinda how business works, you wanna drag things out too long, like it's a sociology class or something, right? Get it sweet, explain what you found, processes, all of that, and then we can move. And then we can ask questions about things as well too. So that's due by this Sunday. So get that in and I'll create a discussion post probably later today at some point. All right, any questions? Any other, yes?
So I was just confused because when I was reading like when you actually click on assignment one, are we making like a paper, or is it just like a quick discussion where post about our idea, or?
Yeah, I mean, well, this first one, I mean, essentially your discussion about it and the discussion point will be your points, right? But if you know, when you come up here to talk about it, if you wanna do 1 to 2 slides about it, right? To have a visual representation to talk about, you can put it in 1 slide.
Okay.
You know, put everything in 1 slide. We'll typically go by that, we'll, create slides for everything that we present.
Okay.
To keep it short and sweet, right?
Okay.
Do bullet points and the gist of it. Yeah, but this first one, as long as you know, post your assignment in there with your discussion counts as your point. Anything else? Yes.
I'm kind of confused about the goal of the project exactly. I guess the base idea was creating like a business, but what is this gonna consist of? Like, what should we be prepared to do?
You're prepared to analyze how a business, a product, or service will operate from top to bottom and how efficient it will be. So we're gonna go through the different processes, what's your strategy with this business, how efficient is that strategy, based off the material we're going over, right? So you can create matrices based on your product and intensity of, things we'll talk about today, like customer interaction. Is it high customer involvement dealing with this? Is it low customer involvement? Is it high automation? Is it low automation for your product that you're manufacturing? All the different levels, right? And then we'll also talk about managing, who's gonna be managing, how would you structure that management of that particular thing? So it encompasses all the different strategies from top to bottom and the processes along with it. So that we as a class can examine it to be like, well, you know what? Different people presented different things. And a lot of people's ideas didn't seem as efficient as others, right? A lot of people's ideas may have skipped some processes. A lot of it may not make particularly great sense at all, right? But then some people might have some fantastic ideas, but a little more detailed. But the point is to create a competition amongst you guys to try to beat each other out. Yes?
It has to be something that we invented, that's something that the company had already.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want a company that exists because there's too much information about it, right? So you can create a generic something of the sort, right? Totally idealistic. It's yours, give it a name, and how it's
individual sign-on?
Individual assignments, yeah. How's that sound? That sound good? Too confusing? What? Understood? Okay. Yeah, the goal of the course, even with dealing with this project, is literally like training your brain to analyze how everything operates from top to bottom. We won't know that, but if it's something we're interested in, we can go and look to see how it's operating, right? Computers, smartphones, Starbucks coffee, Dunkin' Donuts, how efficient is that process? Could it be better? Why do they do this? This is a horrible idea, right? Do you go to Jewel or do you go to the Amazon market where nobody's there and just walk out? Why those two different places exist? Who makes more money? Who's more efficient? Who has more value to the customer, right? Some people say, I don't wanna go there because there's no value. I wanna talk to people, I wanna see human beings, right? So we have to analyze all this to, make reasonable assessments about why things are the way they are. And why they don't necessarily work in long term versus others. Yes?
Can it be like e-commerce thing? E-commerce, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, you could have a total e-commerce business and you're like, hey, we don't want too much, physical contact, right? You can think of Amazon. You can call nobody, right? Just order the stuff. Does it work? Jeff Bezos is like the third richest guy or richest guy, so it must work, right? Okay, this course is designed for us to think more like engineers, I would kind of say. Engineers within business. Not everybody is a good operations manager because they don't look at the detail. A lot of people are very general-minded. They don't want to think about too much process, too much strategy. They don't want to make things more efficient. It's not for everybody. But for those of us who would like to be really good business people, and maybe one day start our own company, or maybe work for a company, and we start to get into these teams they put us in, and these projects, and these groups, we want to be well aware to be like, man, my boss put me in this group. This is a horrible process. This is highly inefficient. We waste a ton of time, waste a ton of money. This is the goal of the class, right? Just to be more, so I would say more engineer-minded and looking at everything. And if you can do that, you can apply it to your personal life. It's not just apply to business, it's apply to you. How efficient is your life right now? How much waste do you have, right? Are there alternatives to what you could be doing right now? Because time is very, very valuable, the most valuable thing. There's a limit. Right? So it's also to think about, hey, what is your process in your life if you're trying to have a goal? Professor Ross wanted to go and make $1 million when I'm 25. Great, sounds like a great idea. What's your strategy? What's your process? How are you gonna get there? This is just a really cool thought. Sounds great. Right? But the people who actually implement and act on it are constantly revising the process, constantly. This is great, but it could be better. This is great, but it could be better. This is great, it can always be better. It never stops, right? And that's why you have a new iPhone rolling out every year, year and a half, and you're gonna buy it because it thought about the process and strategy. Process strategy, pattern of decisions made managing processes so that they will achieve their competitive priorities. No matter what company you create or product or service, you will have a competitor, so you have to try to beat out competitors. Here's one, right? Here's a structure we're talking about. It's just general. Customer contact position, which deals with services. Product process position, which deals with creating products or manufacturing. Here we can say one has customer involvement very low, other one has customer involvement very high. Over here for manufacturing, particularly we look at specialized versus enlarged. What are some high customer involvement companies that you observe out there? Yes.
Like DoorDash, Uber Eats.
Absolutely, right? DoorDash, Uber Eats. right? You can see the stuff on your phone, on through the app, but eventually somebody has to drop it off, right? You have to physically use their car to get there, to drop it off. And that customer involvement leads people to leave some gratitude, right, some tips, which helps that person even more beyond the price of what you purchased for the product. Right? So it's very essential. And some people feel that that's a value. They're like, hey, I'm helping people out. Others may not. Some people say, I don't wanna pay that Uber Eats fee. Basically, it's double what I ordered, right? I don't wanna do that. I don't value that. Let me go out and get it so I can save the money. Because right now it's a bad economy, and they can save the money, right? Two different things, they both work for it depending on what kind of customer you have. What's some example of specialized manufacturing? Yes.
Microchips and computer programming chips in general are mainly coming from Taiwan in particular.
Yeah, right, it's very, very specialized. And think about it, so many are made from one particular company that Samsung and Apple are gonna fight over who's gonna get the most, right? If not, they won't have the fastest chip in their phone, and they'll lose out in some way, right? One will sell more units than the other based on that specialized chip being produced either in Taiwan, South Korea with Samsung, etc. All right, what's your layout? Detailed layout or block plan? Block plan just merely means a bigger generalized plan. Detailed is more specific and itemized. Capital intensity, low automation, high automation. iPhones, very high automated, right? Because you have to push out X amount of units. And these phones that we have, they're very, very complex. And then low automation. What are some low automation products we see out there?
Food. Food.
Yeah, right? We can see food products, very low, not that capital intensive, right? To get a unit out of it. And it doesn't require much, it's naturally grown. And so you don't require so many different machines. And then strategies for change, process re-engineering and process improvement. Do you reinvent this thing we have for keeping the basic elements of it, such as like a smartphone, or do you just improve the process, keeping the product the same, right? Like the product is superior to its competitors, but the process which we get it to the final customer needs to be better, right? So we can sell more units if we can get it faster in their hands, right? Because they demand more for it. And that ultimately leads to effective process design. So think of this, when you're thinking of your businesses that you're gonna create for your plan, all of this is like, hey, what is your strategy? You're like, all right, I wanna create this product. Is it high involvement with customers? Okay. Is it low involvement with customers? Is it a specialized product, right? Is it just a general plan? Do you have something very, very detailed and technical? Capital intensity, low automation, high automation. High automation requires a ton of money, right? You need specialized robotics and specialized equipment to make this. But why would you spend that much money? Versus the opposite.
In the long run, you can save money on wages and then like severance or retirement plan payments.
Yeah, think about it. You don't have to pay the people, right? A simple one is just looking at checkout counters at the grocery store. You don't have to pay those people. Why? Not only do you pay them a wage, you need health care, paid time off, vacation, a lot of extra stuff, right? Maybe child care, something of the sort. They might call in, I'm coming in late, I'm not showing up, I quit. Right? So as a manager or an operator, you have to say, well, I don't wanna have that in this process, right? Or I wanna limit it. I say you wanna get rid of it, yeah, you go to the grocery store, it's still automated, but there's still somebody there. Like, hey, you only need one person that specializes in knowing how this machine works to get the problem solved. We don't need everybody particularly checking people out, because that's something the customer can do, right? So we transfer that to the customer, and we'll save money that way. All right, dimensions of customer contact and service processes, right? Physical presence, right? High contact, someone's actually around. Let's think of maybe a clothing store, right? Low contact, absent. What's the name of the Amazon supermarket?
Amazon Fresh.
Amazon Fresh, right? I've never really even, I think I may have been there one time. Anybody shop there? What's your thoughts?
I mean, it was nice because you could just grab what you wanted and walk out, but then it was like, it's kind of just a normal store, you just get to walk out after.
Did you feel weird walking out like you
Kinda, yeah.
like you stole something, right? Think of that, we've already built in a behavior where people think of grocery stores. You go in, there's people around you talk to, right? And then now you create something new, you're like, no, this one, there's no people, right? Or maybe one person. And so it's just very hard, even though there's value there, you're like, hey, this is so much quicker, people still need to adjust. So the adjustment man up there. Dimension, what is process, right? High contact is people, the low contact is possessions or information. Basically, going back to the grocery store example, possessions or information, right? You got machines that process what you're gonna check out in food, and you have the information being processed by the machine, right? And then contact intensity, active, high contact would be very active, visible, present. Low contact would be passive or out of sight. Maybe you just have one or two people there, but they're out of sight, unless you really need them to help you out in some regard. And then personal attention, high contact, very personal, low contact, impersonal. What are some examples of very like personalized attention you receive at places you shop? Give some examples. Yes.
Maybe like someone in the store who goes up to you saying, "Do you need any help today?" So paying attention to the customer and helping them with whatever they have to do.
Yeah, like what kind of store?
Actually, recently, when I was getting my stuff for the semester, Staples, for instance, I was looking for notebooks and folders, and one of the attendants, he just was asking me if he needed any help, asked him where like notebooks were or something, and he pointed me in the right direction. So stuff like that, if you need like to find something, you know, there's at least someone there to help guide you to where to go.
Yeah, right, you want people who have information that you may not have to solve the problem that you came here for, right? And so therefore, when you walk out, it exceeded expectations, and now your mind with your product that you love, you're like, yeah, by the way, I really value that, you know, you tell people, man, I got this because this person, I didn't know about that. Or this person saved me some money too. Yes, you were gonna say.
I was gonna say like the glasses store, if you walk in, you have your own personal, everybody has their own personal like, prescription, and they look for your specific prescription at the glasses store.
Yeah, very personal, right? You kind of find something that's gonna be perfect, not even that, just think frames, right? Someone has to say, hey, you know, opinionated advice would be like, hey, this goes with your facial structure, right? These gonna look great, not only that find your correct prescription, but this is something that people will compliment you on, something you're gonna wear on your face every day. You need something very personal. I don't know if you just do that online. If so, you're gonna get a product, you have to return 10 times because something's off about the glasses. Yes?
I was thinking like more like a high-end clothes store, like a Gucci or Louis, like how they bring like champagne to you and
Yeah.
they like overserve.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Why? Because it's, in some regards, built into the cost, right?
Yeah.
Buying a luxury item, what does luxury mean? Nobody really knows, right? I got a boat, and that's just called a luxury item. It just means sort of a whiz, right? The only person who enjoy it is me and the people who come out on it. But the actual cost and the maintenance of it, like, maybe it doesn't make sense, right? So you buy $1,000 pair of gym shoes, it may not make sense to everybody. Be like, well, it makes me feel good, and that's all I care about, right? But yeah, in that cost, since they're able to charge so much, you're like, yeah, by the way, sit on this nice leather couch, chill out, watch TV, here's some wine. What kind of wine you like? Red, white, champagne? All these different things, very personalized, because you're what? You're buying an experience and a product, right? You're buying an experience, which is extremely valuable to people. Who else? Someone had their hand up, yes?
Does it say big and tall shops, like sometimes they gotta, you know, since you're already out of the range of regular sizes, sometimes they gotta, you know, get personal information.
Yeah, think about it. You can't fit regular, if it's difficult for you to find clothes that fit you well, you definitely need somebody that can understand body types, right? And that can serve you in that regard and find you something that's gonna match your physical aesthetic. And yes,
I would say like any like sports store, but in particular in my experience, soccer stores usually have employees that kind of understand, like, especially for shoes, they know like some people have wider feet, narrower feet, and they sometimes bring out like the molds that they use to make the shoes, so they show you like this one would be better for wider feet, this one would be better for narrower feet, you know, like about the cleat patterns, like where the studs are and how much traction you would get from that, or like risk of injury. I know some shoes have like sharper cleats, like triangles that don't really work well on artificial grass, they get stuck in too much.
Yeah.
So they recommend you like artificial versus normal grass cleat patterns.
yeah, absolutely. Think about it. You're talking about performance-based products, right? So simply like, how do I maximize my performance? I need a particular shoe that fits me perfect, it digs into the ground enough, right? Certain weight to it, but not too heavy, maybe not too light. So you need somebody that's highly specialized, knowing a particular product or a particular range of products, right? So you need somebody active and visible, because I'm not sure if you can get that online, right? Like, yeah, they have these artificial intelligence sort of, where you can put in your dimensions, but it still not there, it's not there yet, right? And then method of delivery, we talked about things like Grubhub, Uber Eats, face-to-face or regular mail, email. Think of Amazon, where you're really not gonna see the person drop it off, but you come home and there's a package, right? Customer contact, the extent to which the customer is present, so the degree of the presence, actively involved and receives personal attention during the service process. Customization, service level ranging from highly customized to standardized. Even some of the fashion houses now, they do personalization, right? So you come in, you want this luxurious product, but they also say, hey, you know, we can order a special thing, put a crest on there, maybe put your initials on the back, do these type of things too. Ralph Lauren does that now, right? So you can get your nice polo, but you can also get it customized and place things exactly where you want them to be. And then process diversion. So the extent to which the process is highly customized with considerable latitude as to how the tasks are performed. We'll get more into that too, as we talk about how sometimes creating two products at the same time is more beneficial cost-wise than just trying to produce more of the same product, right? Depending on the situation. And then flow, how the work progresses through the sequence of steps in the process, which is a big one you hear business. How does this flow? How does this flow? Is there a gap? Is there a stop? Is there a queuing system? Do you have to wait for this particular thing, right? What's the turnaround time for it? Or does this move very, very smoothly, right? Very low lag time, very little waiting in the process. How does it all work? And here's a customer contact matrix. So you guys heard of front office and back office before, right? Front of the house, back of the house, right? And here we have a chart showing process characteristics, right? Less process divergence and more line flows. and then less customer contact and customization there. So if we have high interaction with customers and highly customized service, along with flexible flows and individualized processing, your front office is gonna deal with that, right? Front office is gonna deal with interaction of customers and highly customized service. Because your front office might be the people who know it the best, right? They have to be able to answer certain questions specifically about that to a customer, right? And then here, in 2, we have some interaction with customers, standard services with some options, and flexible flows with some dominant paths with some exceptions as to how the work is performed, and hybrid. So it's just a mixture of the two, right? It's somewhere down the middle of the road. And then low interaction with customers and standardized services, back office, line flows, routine work performed the same with all customers. So your back office doesn't particularly have to answer specific questions, but they do pay attention to process. So their function is to get things out to the customers. They're not really engaging with the customer to have specific problem solved. All right, process choice, a way of structuring the process by organizing resources around the process or organizing them around products. And we just kind of went over these, but you don't have to necessarily remember those. And here, less customization, higher value. Give me some examples of that. Less customization and high value. What are some products that are high value, not necessarily customized?
Any type of car, but in particular Ferrari, they don't let you like do aftermarket stuff to it.
Less customization, but highly valued. But see, Ferraris aren't made that many, right? So don't have high value of the production of the car.
Okay.
But you're right, it is less customized. They don't allow you to really customize the vehicle, right? How it comes out, it's the specifications on the vehicle are what they are. But what's something that is highly produced that's not necessarily customized? Think of simple products. Yes?
Food, like our hyphen, for example.
What's that?
Our hyphen, for example, like your phone.
Yeah, anyway, it's not that customized, right? You either got the 256, the 512, right? Whatever, right? You got a limited range of options, but the phone itself is produced, there are a ton of iPhones produced, right? But it's not that customized. Yes, there's a differentiation in the product in terms of what you get, but it's still very limited, right? You're not gonna customize your iPhone more different than other people are going to. Think of also too, like, Coca-Cola, right? Right? It's just a high value thing and it's really not customizable itself, but it sells a ton, right? You think of candy bars, you can think of all these different things. So here we got low value, multiple products, and low to moderate value, bless you. Few major products, higher value, high standardized commodity. And over here for process characteristics, we got customized process with flexible and unique sequence of tasks, disconnected line flows, moderately repetitive work, connected line, highly repetitive work, continuous flows. So you can think of this just as an assembly line, right? Assembly line has different configurations on what they're producing, but they try to continuously flow in the process. Anyone here ever worked for a manufacturing company for an assembly line? Someone here said they worked for Amazon, right? Right, think of that, right? We're talking about non-ending flows of things coming to you, right? The work is non-ending, so much that you probably couldn't even keep up with.
You know, it was nice for them to trucks, cause then I was building trucks, so all I had to do was unload the truck.
Okay.
Which it was similar, but I mean, those first couple of weeks when I was working on the line, yeah, it was constant, take the pack, you know, the tote, and then start building the packages, or start building the pallet, you know, the packages from the tote, so.
Yeah, so just continuous flows, connected line, very highly repetitive, right? The job was highly repetitive. So you got continuous flow process, high volume, high standardization commodity products, which we're mostly dealing with in some capacity. Then we have, production and inventory strategies, design to order. What are some examples? Design to order. What are some companies where you could think of design to order?
When you're ordering like custom t-shirts from like I said, custom ink or like 24-hour tees, like stuff like that, you just like give them your design, we'll design it to order.
Yeah, absolutely, right? They're waiting for somebody to communicate with them to give them the product to create, right? They already have the t-shirts, but the design is gonna be, you know, particularly called in or communicated with. And that could be even under made to order, right? Once the design comes in, it's made to order. Think of even suits. Like anyone here has a bespoke suit or custom suit or a high-end suit of some sort and want to get fitted for a suit? No? Okay, but think of that, right? So you have tailors that come in, they have the textiles, they have the garments, and you come in and they measure you and then they make it to order, right? As opposed to you say, I'm just going to Saks Fifth Avenue, Nordstrom, or wherever to get a suit, right? It's already there. The fitting's gonna be off. There's not gonna be a lot of flexibility, and you know, basically you got what you got, right? And then the symbol to order is postponement and mass customization. Think of maybe like back in the day, Dell Computers did a lot of customization, but they did mass customization, right? So there are all these different computers, but everybody's computer could have been a little bit different than each other. And then we got make to stock, right, which is mass production. Maybe think of construction, the construction industry. If you're building, working on a project or a very large construction job, you need to have materials and building equipment and things of that nature already ready to go. It's gonna flow based on what time you are in the construction project. But things are probably just stocked off somewhere until it's time for them to be assembled. Layout, the physical arrangement of operations or departments relative to each other. Who here has ever worked for a crappy job with crappy management? Where'd you work?
Menards.
Why is it crappy?
People were just mixing like business and personal things. Like there was a lot of relationships and.
So everybody kind of clicked up, right? There were little clicks and it probably disturbed the workforce and the flow in production. Did it lead to high turnover where people quitting the job?
Yes.
Right, so you say, hey, great company, Menards is a private company, not like Home Depot or Lowe's, out of Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
But you could say, hey, the culture here in which the managers mitigate these sort of relationships or clicks or these arrangements really disturbs the process of retaining employees. And we say particular stores do very bad versus other stores that do well, right? So not all stores do great and it affects sales. And then you got district managers and all those people coming in looking at to change a ton of stuff, right? So yeah, the layout, relative to each other, right? And that could just be groups, like you say, groups in different departments, how they just, what they're ineffective in how they, manage their employees. What else? Who, somebody else had their hand up for crappy job with crappy management that they worked at? Yeah.
I worked at a pizza place in Austin, Texas, and my manager didn't want to be there. And so he was bad at his job, slacked off, left early, left too much responsibility up to people who didn't have that title because he didn't want to be there.
And how did that affect the output?
I was overworked because I was the only cashier for a while. And I stayed there late, and then I would start closing up early when I wanted to because he did, and start cutting corners. And then I quit because I hated it.
Okay. So at the store, there was a manager and there was just employees? Or was there any middle person in between there?
There was supposed to be, but he, got fired, and then they didn't hire anybody else.
Okay, so yeah, think of that, that's more of a direct example. You think of how things are set up, because we need redundancies. Crappy manager may need a secondary manager, right? You may need somebody under him before you get to direct employees who are either working in sales or making the product for pizza, right? Or taking orders on the phone, or working the POS system, things of that nature, right? What's the actual layout, how efficient is the layout? Because problems arise, and they usually arise from people, right? People are lazy, people are tired, people hate their jobs, and this affects output to the final customers. Anybody else? Crappy job, crappy manager? No. You guys all been lucky to have some great jobs. Operation, a group of human and capital resources performing all or part of one or more processes. That's pretty self-explanatory. Here that's kind of the same, what we talked about. All right, customer involvement, possible advantage for high customer involvement. As we said, in business, the big word is value, not price, not cost, right? Everybody knows what price and cost is. Very few people can understand what value is, right? And if you understand what value is, you can capitalize on that value of what people want. So here we say, hey, high customer involvement, what are some possible advantages? Increase net value to the customer, right? I really felt good that this person helped me out, they were knowledgeable. Not only I walked away with a product that I wanted, but I also got a good deal, or I learned a lot more about the product itself, right? Better quality, faster delivery, greater flexibility, and lower costs. Those are possible advantages. Some other possible advantages: reduction in product, shipping, and inventory costs. This here, particularly with low customer involvement, right? Reduction in shipping and inventory costs. Coordination across the supply chain. Possible disadvantages: can be disruptive. People can be disruptive. Maybe you don't need to have this many people engaging with people. It disrupts the flow of them purchasing something. Managing timing and volume can be challenging, right? Quality measurement can be difficult. It's hard to measure good employees from bad employees. It's hard to measure people's experience. Typically, you could go on Yelp or something to see that. Maybe that may be the only measurement you have. Requires interpersonal skills, which a lot of people do not have or lack in. And multiple locations may be necessary. Think about it, you wanna have a clothing store, everybody's selling online, but you wanna differentiate yourself and have a physical store. You're gonna need a lot of employees to handle a lot of customers. You're gonna need multiple locations, because people can't all come to the same location to buy this particular product, right? That's why you have a ton of H&Ms all across the country, all across the world, but it works, and they have a ton of employees that work there too to help. I think we'll leave off at that today. I don't wanna drag it out too much, but we could just have some sort of open discussions about maybe some ideas, possible ideas for what people want to engage in for their plan. Yes?
Is the plan due Friday or Sunday?
Sunday by midnight,
Okay.
which means just kind of discussing what you want to take on in the discussion. I know some people talked about starting a business. I know your mother class with the wrestling business, and you could, I don't know if you want to give out all those ideas about, the business or whatever, but you could, use something of the sort. And actually, it could be helpful in some sense to make you kind of address how effective or efficient it could be. you wanna do that, you can change the name or give it a generic name or alter it a little bit. It might be helpful, you know, for all of us to kind of give some input. It could be like a little experiment, for the business. I know someone else was talking about starting a business or has some ideas. Who else? What was it again?
The sports brand made out of like recycled plastic textiles.
Like, sports
So-
equipment or
So
clothing?
like clothing and like shoes. So like soccer cleats or basketball shoes, but like you make the textiles or the material you make it out of from like recycled plastic.
Recycled plastic?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Have you looked into it at all?
Yeah, I did a project for a different class about this, where I kind
Yeah.
of looked into like the supply, like where I would get like the materials and stuff before, a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, a big thing for that would be, you're talking about sustainability, right? So you're recycling things that are harmful to the environment, so that's a big, you probably get a lot of value in that from customers, believing that you're doing a really, really good thing. And unique, everybody's like, hey, you know what this material's made out of that I'm wearing? You know, it's pretty cool. Who else? Business ideas. None of my French students? No business ideas for back home?
I have, I don't have, but there is like a coffee, like kind of Starbucks that we have in our city, that I really like, and maybe just really take the idea and bring it here. Cause I felt like people, since, we are working in the city in Korea, so it's like kind of like, all the things out of the university, so I was just thinking about this idea to students in another country so that I have something to say more.
Yeah, that's good. Like, what's really unique about the
Yeah,
place?
there is like a whole, it's not like it's not a big company, it's companies who do buy anything that are really customer centered. And it's really like, there is like a vibe, I don't know how to say it in the coffee, so yeah, I want to do this part. Yeah,
Okay. It could work. Yeah, as I said, definitely try to introduce that, we can all get some input about it. Who else? Yes.
My dad and my neighbor have been in talks for a while about like starting like a barbecue restaurant in our neighborhood. So maybe just like build off of that and like make it an actual thing.
Is there a need, you feel like there's a need for it?
Yeah. There's no like local restaurants really buying us, it's all really good like chains.
Yeah.
There's not anything like, you know, they both like smoke like pulled pork and like brisket and stuff like that, so they would like wanna do it.
Will it be cooked a certain way? Will it be like Texas barbecue? St. Louis
Yeah, it'll be
barbecue?
something, they haven't really like decided all that stuff yet, but.
Okay, and what area is it?
I like that Midway Airport.
Okay, alright. Yeah, that's excellent idea. Let's introduce it. Anybody else? And maybe towards the end of the class, I'm actually working on something now and, doing a lot of traveling. And, so one of my plans is in Europe. So I'm gonna be purchasing old castles in order to convert them into luxury boutique hotels. So in Europe, there's a ton in France, there's a ton in Belgium, there's a ton in Italy, actually pretty cheap, right? The main cost will be revamping them to be, you know, ready to go, getting the amount of people in there. So maybe that's something I could talk about towards the end too, some of the things I'm working on, right? But,